improvisation was the legacy of the San Francisco sound. Bands rode the beast that lived in the center of a song, and no band did it better than the Grateful Dead.
You remember a band when you used to rehearse and do everything really right? That was the old band. This is not that band. This band is chaos. It's like a wild animal just out of the cage. You don't know if it's going to rip you apart or not, and then you just try to get it back in the cage at the end of the night. You know, and that's a good night.
The jamming atmosphere at the Fillmore influenced the music of visiting bands as well.
The Fillmore was by far the best place that we had ever played. We just started off doing our little sort of 3, 4, 5-minute songs, and then the audience was shouting, kind of, just play, just play. So we just started playing and extending our sort of solos. And they loved it, and we loved it. Of course, we had the wonderful light shows that were going on at that time, which we loved because none of us were really front men. You know, we liked to just become part of this large thing. It was really great.
The all-encompassing light show was a major part of the Fillmore experience, engulfing both the audience and the performers.
It's like bathing in light. That's what it is. All these different colors and forms washing over you all the time.
And there was no real lights, no spots or anything on the stage. And people were just on the ground screwing everywhere. You know, I mean, they were just making love. And it was not uncommon to see people. They would like to do it over here in the strobes.
The light shows used a variety of projection techniques, pioneered by light artists such as Bill Ham, who remarkably still practices his craft today.
The thing that's called the first rock and roll light show was actually a kinetic piece that I made to be at the Red Dog Saloon, which was the first gig any band in town had had. So I've continued doing light shows all this time. And for me, it's a form of painting.
What's that you're putting in? What's that first spray?
No, I don't tell secrets.
Okay. This family recipe.
I don't tell secrets.
We took an old empty room with no stage lighting and with a few classroom overhead projectors, created a whole new world.
Bill Graham opened the Fillmore East in 1968. Unlike the ballroom setting of the Fillmore in San Francisco, he chose an ornate old movie theater as his East Coast venue. While it was open, its marquee would read like a who's who of 60s-era rock music. Unfortunately, it's a temple that no longer stands. Like the ruins of a vanquished empire, only its upper facade remains. Today, people pass unknowingly through what was once the entrance to a grand temple of rock.
Where I'm standing now is 2nd Avenue and 6th Street. It's the most famous corner in the history of New York rock and roll. The audience would line up down the street here, down 6th Street, and they come into the Fillmore East, which was over here, and that's where the Fillmore East actually was. The famous marquee came out, and people would enter through there. Next door to the Fillmore is this very important place. I have my hand on what was the Tisch School of the Arts in 1968, filled with very bright people who had studied theater and were going to go into theater and had all the theater skills. Now I have my hand on what was to become the Fillmore East. And these two buildings share a common wall that goes all the way halfway to 3rd Avenue. It's amazing. And what happened was that as this scene began to develop, very quickly word got over here. It only had to travel 6 inches. And it got over here, and the young graduate students and people who were here started to come over here after class. And after a while, they didn't go back. And so the reason the Fillmore was such a powerful performance space is because everybody working here was trained in the theater.
In New York, Bill Graham and his staff presented rock music with a quality and formality that was unheard of at the time. There were 2 shows nightly, complete with uniformed ushers, playbills, and intermissions. Even the use of a light show, a mainstay of his West Coast venue, was transformed to fit the theatrical proscenium setting.
In New York, it was a theater with reserved seats. Completely different discipline because people can't wander away. They're forced to look straight ahead. So we took the responsibility for their eyeballs from the moment they arrived until the moment they closed the house. We'd show cartoons, we'd have funny slides, and when the band was introduced, their name came up, and the first note of music, there was a visual, and the second note of music, there was a different visual, and then we would listen and make things happen.
It just made for an amazing presentation of rock and roll, and that's what Bill Graham wanted. He wanted to show rock and roll at its highest level, not only the music, but the visual presentation and the efficiency of not having to wait for an hour between bands. It's just great rock and roll theater.
The shows at the Fillmore East usually featured 3 acts on every bill. Bill Graham would do his best to make every evening a unique entertainment experience. The Fillmore East would soon develop a mystique that would attract the attention of those outside the rock world.
Leonard Bernstein came to the Fillmore to see a concert, and he was being given a tour backstage, and he was shown the Joshua Light Show. We were hanging off the back wall, and he wanted to try running a liquid projection plate. So we set him up and said, "Ready, maestro?" And he said yes, and I turned it on, and he proceeded to perform, and he had a great time. Jesus is just all right.